Well, hello everyone, my name is Zachary O'Shea, and this is Box of Teeth. I know that you need another horror-themed monster for Dungeons & Dragons, and I have one for you right now. Here in August, we're covering a specific antagonist and his minions that you can use for a horror-themed Dungeons & Dragons game, and that would be the Pariah. The Pariah is a riff off of the classic movie monster, The Mummy, except he's not any kind of undead, he's actually an aberration. He started existence as the prince of a long-destroyed desert kingdom that succumbed to wave after wave of strange plagues, of which he was the only survivor, sort of. He came out as some aberration that was mutated by all the different diseases that were around. He is quite insane, has a mirthful aspect to him, and believes that he's generously sharing all of his gifts with others when it's actually just him going about spreading plague, and he can't die either. The Pariah and his minions cover three different subgenres of horror, that being cosmic horror, body horror, and disease horror. And we're covering something that's a little more cosmic horror with a little sprinkle of body horror today compared to previous entries for minions, and that's the Silverfish Behemoth. Composed of silvery chitin segments each as large as a human child, this insect crawls across the blighted ruins that are now its nest. It is technically a silverfish, but it is such a massive size, it would only be considered vermin by the gods alone. It is a huge predator that scours the landscape for both flesh and magic alike. It consumes so many scrolls and spellbooks that it crackles with an arcane energy unlike anything else. This energy is eager to consume any other magical source. It has long antennae that come from its brow that are stained red and have spiked bits of skulls and other bones on its spines. So complete is the devastation the Pariah brings, not just in killing off things with plague, but destroying a civilization altogether, that his rowdy warping abilities affect even the smallest of vermin. Silverfish, which are very small and usually want to nibble on skin cells and destroy paper, are elevated to war machines of a sort. They seek out any holy text, spellbooks, and scrolls first and foremost, devouring and destroying them. This cripples any magical opposition to their leprous lords. This glutting also bulks them up very quickly, and soon they're hunting for any histories and also the people that write all these texts to continue eating. In time, a few of these silverfish become behemoths into themselves, and that's what we're covering today. So let's go ahead and take a look at a silverfish behemoth's statistics for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. A silverfish behemoth is a challenge rating 7 huge aberration that is unaligned. They have a decent armor class and a good number of hit points and a speed of 50. They do have a wisdom saving throw bonus. They are resistant to weapon attacks that are not magical. They're immune to poison damage and immune to charm and frighten. They do have tremor sense, but they don't speak any languages, and they are actually quite dumb because they're just giant insects. They do have some nasty abilities, however, such as backlash, so anytime they succeed against a spell or are missed by a ranged spell attack, they roll on the magic wild table and produce that effect from themselves. They do have magic resistance, which means they save against spells and spell-like effects more often. And they also always have sense magic, which works like detect magic at 120 feet, but is not a magical ability. They do have multi-attack, so they can make 2 antennae attacks as one action. These have a reach, of course, and do a significant amount of slashing damage. They also make anybody concentrating on a spell make that concentration check with disadvantage. The same for their bite. They only do it once. It does more piercing damage, and that concentration disadvantage remains. Their last attack is Consume Magic, which has a reach of 60 feet. It doesn't do any damage, potentially. Instead, it more or less casts Dispel Magic with a +5 on any spell that the target is maintaining or has cast on them. If the spell is dispelled, the creature takes necrotic damage equal to that spell's level, and the Silverfish Behemoth regains 1d6 hit points for each spell level that was dispelled. As one might imagine, Silverfish Behemoth is really going to give magic users a run of their money, whether it's your player character heroes, or a conclave of druids, or a tower full of wizards, as it just kind of charges through spells, dispelling them, doing extra damage, and smashing people about so they can't concentrate on spells at all. I'd love to hear how you would use them in your own campaign down in the show notes below. Of course, you can find the Silverfish Behemoth, the Pariah, and hundreds more horror-themed monsters, all for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. They're all perfectly free at boxofteeth.blogspot.com. If you're interested in the non-Dungeons & Dragons horror projects that I have, or the horror fiction that I write, it includes Grease Paint right there. It's book 1 of the Crimson Thread series, and you know that this is book 2, Psychopomps. It comes out at the end of this month on the 30th. So you can go and pre-order it. You can always go to www.zacharyoshay.com. As always, I really appreciate your time and your attention, and I hope you have a great rest of the weekend.